The light is going wrong. You do not know what is happening. Nobody around you does. The world is bright. It should be bright. It is the middle of the day, but something is wrong with the sun, and you can feel it before you can see it. The temperature drops, not like a cloud passing, too fast. The birds, which have been calling since dawn, go silent in a wave that moves through the trees from east to west. The shadows on the ground sharpen into something strange and crisp. Then you look up. The sun is being eaten. Not analysis, not geometry. That is the word your entire nervous system already knows. Eaten. A bite out of it, then more, and the light shifts towards something amber and wrong, and the temperature drops another degree, and you are standing in the middle of the day in growing darkness, and your body, built over 2 million years to survive, is flooding itself with every emergency signal it has. That moment, those 2 or 3 minutes of totality, when the sky goes black and the stars appear at noon and the corona blooms around the dark disk like a crown of white fire, that moment is the center of this story. Not the myths that grew around it, not the science that eventually explained it. The moment itself, what happened inside a human being before there was a name for it, because that is what we are asking. What does the body do when everything it has ever learned about the world stops being true? Start with the body, before the group, before the meaning, just the body, standing in the grass, watching something impossible. Your adrenal glands do not wait for instructions. Before you have processed what you are seeing, the cortisol is already in your bloodstream. Your heart rate climbs, your pupils dilate. Your muscles ready themselves for fight or flight, and they do not know which because there is nothing to fight and nowhere to run from the sky. In 2017, researchers at the Riverbanks Zoo in Columbia, South Carolina, watched 75% of observed species react to totality during a solar eclipse. 3 female gorillas moved toward their night enclosure as if dusk had arrived. 7 giraffes clustered together, swaying with what the researchers described as apparent anxiety. The Japanese macaques climbed high into the trees. Every nervous system said the same thing. This is not right. Now place that body somewhere in the Upper Paleolithic. 40,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans in what is now Europe. Their nervous system is identical to yours. Their capacity for language, for social meaning, for storytelling, identical. Their knowledge of the mechanisms of the solar system, 0. Here is what we know. And here's what we do not. We have no direct archaeological evidence of how Paleolithic humans responded to specific eclipses. We cannot. Total solar eclipses are rare and local. Any given spot on Earth experiences totality roughly once every 300 to 400 years. But we have the brain architecture itself and a pattern that emerges the moment writing appears, which points backward with extraordinary consistency toward what the experience must have been. That pattern, studied across dozens of independent cultures by astronomer E.C. Krupp, director of the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, shows something striking. Independently, with no contact between them, cultures on every continent converged on the same core interpretation. The sun was being devoured. A dragon in China, a celestial frog in Vietnam, a mountain lion in the Andes, sky wolves in Norse mythology, a jaguar in the beliefs of the Lacandon people of what is now Chiapas, who believed the jaguar, if it reached the ground, would eat every person alive. Researchers Mark Littman, Fred Espenak, and Ken Wilcox found that these global traditions collapse into 4 basic story types: a monster devouring the sun fighting with the moon, the sun and moon uniting in secret, or the sun god growing sick or angry. 4 types, from cultures separated by oceans and millennia, the signature of a shared biological experience arriving through different vocabularies, and the response, this is what early humans actually did, was almost universally the same: make noise. Everything you have, drums, gongs, shouting, arrows shot at the sky, flaming torches waved upward. The Chinese made drums to scare the dragon. The Chippewa shot flaming arrows to rekindle the sun. People in Colombia shouted their promises to the heavens. The Inca made sacrifices. The Norse called upon their gods. The same logic everywhere. The attack on the sun is real, and we must act. And then, the part that reinforced the behavior for centuries. The sun came back. The noise worked. The arrows worked. The sacrifice worked. Every time a solar eclipse has ever occurred in human history, the sun has returned within minutes. Whatever response your group made gets burned into cultural memory as the correct thing to do. If you are still here, it is because you recognize something in that noise making. It is the same thing you do when you feel out of control. You act. You do something. The action itself is the meaning. Subscribe now. This channel exists for exactly that kind of recognition. The moment when prehistoric behavior suddenly looks disturbingly familiar. And what comes next is when ancient humans stopped just reacting and started watching. At some point, some humans noticed the pattern. The eclipse was not random. The Babylonians recorded the earliest known eclipse, in their tradition, on May 3rd, 1375 BC. By roughly 700 BC, working within the Enuma, Anu, and Enlil, more than 70 tablets of celestial omens, they had identified the Saros cycle, 223 months, about 18 years, after which an almost identical eclipse sequence repeats. When an eclipse was predicted, they seated a substitute king in the belief that divine wrath would fall on the temporary ruler instead of the real one. The substitute was later killed. The eclipse was still a message from a hostile cosmos, but now a predictable one. The oldest written human response to an eclipse sits in the Chinese Shu Qing, the Book of History. Historians believe it refers to the eclipse of October 22nd, 2134 BC. It reads, "The sun and moon did not meet harmoniously. Two imperial astronomers, Shi and Ho, had failed to predict it. The emperor executed them." That a failed eclipse prediction was a capital offense tells you everything about the weight of this experience. The sky going dark without warning was not merely frightening. It was the collapse of social order. The Battle of Halys crystallizes what a total solar eclipse meant when it arrived unannounced. On May 28, 585 BC, two armies, the Lydians under King Aliats and the Medes under King Cyaxares, were fighting near the Halys River in what is now central Turkey. The sky went dark. Both armies stopped. Not from strategy, not from agreement. They simply stopped in the middle of a battle because the sun had disappeared. Herodotus records that Thales of Miletus had predicted the eclipse, a claim scholars have debated ever since, and which remains uncertain. But what is not uncertain is the result. The darkness turned two armies of armed men into witnesses of a shared impossibility, and they made peace. The Halys River became the border between their kingdoms. Two nations whose soldiers had been killing each other were joined because the sky went dark in the middle of a battle and neither side could explain it. You do not need to have been there to understand that. The soldiers did not decide the eclipse was a divine omen. They could not help it. When the explanation does not exist, the brain does not wait. It assembles one from what it has. And what every mind in that era had, in abundance, was the belief that the sky was watching. It had intentions. And if the sun went out in the middle of a battle, the intention was unmistakable. At Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, on a large boulder called Piedra del Sol, there is a petroglyph, a circle with looping protrusions radiating outward from its edge, that Professor J. McKim Malville of the University of Colorado believes may depict the solar eclipse of July 11, 1097, possibly even a coronal mass ejection visible during totality. The Chacoans built their civilization aligned to astronomical events. If Malville is right, they did not just experience the eclipse, they carved the corona onto stone and made the impossible permanent. And so we come back to the center. Those 2 or 3 minutes of totality, the black disk, the corona, the stars at noon, the cold, you are standing in it. 40,000 years ago, or 4,000, or 500, the moment is the same. Your nervous system is the same. The feeling of the world going wrong in a way you cannot explain is the same. What differs is what your group does with it afterward. Whether you make noise to drive away the monster, whether you pick up a stone tool and carve the corona onto a rock face so that whoever comes after you will know what the sky looked like, whether you stop a war. What connects all of those responses is not superstition. It is the drive to make sense of something that has no sense yet. Drums, arrows, stone carvings, treaties, all of it is the same impulse. The sun went out. We had to do something, we had to make it mean something, and so we did. Every total solar eclipse that will ever occur was already there in the mechanics of the solar system when the first human being looked up and felt afraid. What changed over 2 million years is not the fear. The fear is still exactly where it was. What changed is the story we tell to fill the silence after it passes. What would you do if you saw it and had no words for what it was?